Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood, and I'm here to review John Philip Betancourt's continuing blog, The Return of Dark Shadows, Series 11, Chapter 4, Power and Control. And that's exactly what the hell Angelique wants. But I don't feel just Angelique. Angelique definitely wants power and control in this. She wants her power back to be able to control the entire town of Collinsport. She wants to be able to control everything. So a lot of Angelique in this chapter here is a lot of desperation to get her power back, really. And her in bed with Curtis is a nice setting that she is generally in love with him. I don't feel she would honestly hurt him, but then again, too, that yeah, I think she didn't have her if she doesn't get her full power, what I'm curious to find out is if he starts to resist her, what will she do? So I'm curious about that because for now he's in this chapter. There's a little bit of a tease, and I'm not trying to jump around. That Curtis, though he is under Angelique's mind control, is starting to worry more about his mother more and more. So I think there's mind control, there's only so much control she has of his feelings to be able to shake his mom. So you have Curtis starting to not necessarily question Angelique, who's Cassie, but he's questioning whether he should have ever came to Collinsport or his mother should have came to Collinsport. And I love that because it lets you know that Curtis isn't completely, you know, on under a spell, because if he was, he would totally forget about his mom. She would just snap her fingers and make it happen. And that's because you have Alexandra Thorne, who has a lot of Angelique, who has some of Angelique's power. But Angelique is so powerful to the degree of she's not where Alexandra is afraid to use the power to a degree. Angelique isn't, and that's from one thing: experience. It, just because someone has power, it sort of goes back to the comic book thing. It doesn't mean they always want to use it, and it to be used in the wrong sort of way. But I think push will come to shove, and eventually, I do think you're going to see a showdown. I do think either Alexander's just going to put her foot down and say, "You know what? I've had enough of it." This is all my opinion, but and she's just going to take Angelique head on, or I think Andrew's just going to go on a witch hunt, literally, and fucking turn into the werewolf and start fucking thrashing people, which fucking Andrew's ready to kill Angelique. Which I love that. I love that there's a lot of Andrew in here. Andrew is one of my favorite protagonists from a male standpoint. I think out of everybody JP has introduced in here, Andrew's been my favorite. Obviously, you guys know I named my wolf after his character, my wolf I bought from Big Lots. And that's because he's my favorite male protagonist in this story. I love the way he was transitioned into it and introduced. And just again, to give a bit of opinion, and I sort of touched upon this in I think either my last video or the video before that. I'm getting old, so I can't remember every little thing I do. That while Christopher's DNA is in Andrew, I do feel Andrew is his own person. That he's not complete. He's not Christopher exactly. He is Andrew Shaw, but he's choosing to be a good person. He does legitimately care for Alexandra. And you can sense that. And I do think Christopher's memories attributed to that, but I also think he is generally in love with her. That he being Andrew, is generally in love with Alexandra. Um, and another thing of this I'll say is he touched upon David, Carolyn, and uh, Quinn, who's Julia's daughter or granddaughter. Sorry, uh, that you have Quinn, who knows that David had Detective Loomis McGovern look into her grandmother, and that's how it came about. She was trying to find out, or looked into Quinn, and they found out she was Julia Hoffman's granddaughter. And she confronts David to a degree. It's not an argument, it's more of a, okay, I want you to tell me what he found out. Because I know he's not going to tell me. I know she's not going to tell me, so you need to tell me. But, and here's what I find interesting, too. David doesn't tell her because he feels that's Julia Hoffman's deal. That's something Julia Hoffman should do. And I could understand that because it's sort of like David said. David didn't go into it to find out that she was Julie Hoffman's granddaughter. She wanted to find out how she got Jeffrey Shaw, which was Andrew's dad, off for murder. That's what he was trying to find out. It's just an inadvertent thing that ended up happening, and I do find that very neat. But in the same sense, what one person does affects someone else, and that's been a very consistent thing since the beginning of all this, since JP's beginning, that what one person does, it affects everyone else, and whether you're a Collins or not, and that's been very, very well done. And there's a continuation of that here, where while she's protecting Jeffrey Shaw when he was alive, it causes David to get Detective Loomis McGovern to investigate her, and when he investigates her, starts poking around in her thing, it causes him to find out, well, she's related to somebody. And there's my washer, it's done. But I'll change it here in a moment after I get done with this. Just sounds like an ice cream machine. Or a video game. But I do think that, again, it's something that what one person does affects the other and the other. So when she finds out he did this, she confronts him, and I love that about Quinn. Again, JP has created a lot of new characters in this, and I dare say, as much as I love Victoria Winters, Quinn is definitely my favorite out of all this. I love Alexandra, don't get me wrong, she's been here since the beginning, but I really have taken to Quinn and Andrew. I think they're just really, really interesting characters in a lot of ways. I'm not saying the rest aren't. They are. They very well are. And you have, because of all this sort of domino-like effect, she does confront David, and David tells her, look, your grandmother needs to tell you what happened. It's not my place to tell you. And it isn't. I actually agree with David there. It's not his place. But though, too, I do feel, I'm not saying David's being condescending. I just feel, in my opinion, again, and that's what this is, I feel David, by doing that, is sort of, to give a wrestling terminology, he is receding her in a way to get back at her for getting Jeffrey Shaw off. I do feel there's a bit of that into that. That's my opinion from reading this. That's my reader's perspective of it. And look, I hope to hear other people's readers' perspective from this. And so you have that moment. And then you have Julia Hoffman getting told by David as soon as Quinn leaves what went down. And what's Julia Hoffman do? She gets a syringe ready to inject into her daughter. And I'll be damned, Julia. I mean, this is basically Julia Hoffman 101. I mean, she's going to protect herself at all costs. But I am wondering, how far is she really going to go? I mean, is that something that character really wants to do? Is inject her daughter with, again, it's not a syringe that can hurt her granddaughter. But to cover this up longer and longer, I am curious to see if she's going to go through with that, and that'll be very interesting to see if she does or doesn't. And to get to Granger, the paranormal investigator who's um, conducting a paranormal investigation in, uh, with Maggie Evans and Sebastian. I do find it very curious because Granger. What am I about Granger? I'm conflicted, is what I'll say, and here's why. Here's Granger who told Maggie Evans, Serena, and I forgot to mention Serena's there, Serena Belmore, and Sebastian, do not tell any members of the family what we're doing. So they conduct this seance. He's got cameras ready, recordings, all that, and I love the crucifix sequence in this. That was fucking holy shit epic. Because it's like I've been saying, JP takes you there, and it's like you're standing there or sitting there watching this, and it's like, I'm waiting for someone's head to spin around, like in The Exorcist. But, again, I really enjoyed that sequence. I feel he did the paranormal investigation thing a lot better than what I did it. That it was very transcendent. It was very smooth, very easily done. That you have this guy who, say what you want, whether you don't trust him or not, and I don't, and I'll get into I'm conflicted about the character. That I love the crucifix where it says BC, Barnabas Collins, and that's very, very interesting. At least that's what I would think it would stand for. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But again, you have Soy Bahan, who is Barnabas's adopted daughter, and she loves him. And she catches them doing this. Now, here's where this gets really, really curious. So here's Granger, who doesn't want anybody in the know, including Soy Bahan, that he wouldn't even want her to know. So now she knows what's going on. They explain, and he says, we're trying to help him move on. So he says, now, do I trust that? Hell no. I think he's bullshitting her 100%. But here's what I find interesting. He doesn't have to give in to her demand. But he's now going to use her to even lure Barnabas out even harder. Which, again, I don't feel he has to include her. But he chooses to include her. But there's two conditions here. Number one, her condition is she wants to be part of it. And he accepts on a condition she tells no one else. Because in his words, and this is sort of the same thing he used against her, that there would be too much interference. And now he's changing his tune. So that's why I don't trust him. And again, I could be wrong. Look, again, these reviews are my opinion. I could be 1,000% off about the character. He could be totally legit, totally good. It's just, the character is very conflicting, and I do enjoy the confliction. It keeps you on your toes as a reader. It's like, is this guy like genuine or what? So I do enjoy that very much. And this was really, really well done from how the characters were transitioned. I really enjoyed that. This is a straight 10. I love this chapter. I love the Angelique trying to kill Alexandra. Yet again, she gets interrupted. This time by Curtis. And so she's not able to fully concentrate. I sort of jumped over that a little bit. That's why I just mentioned it now. Because there was so much to get to in this. And there always is. So, sorry. But I did really enjoy that sequence. I love the cold water sequence. She said she saw a spider. I love that sequence. That was really, again, just so just like a slip in there. I love that. So I really enjoyed this one. This one gets a straight, again, straight 10. Enjoyed it all around, this chapter here. Link is going to be in the description box, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and see you next time.